Would you suggest the learning and development professionals or wannabe L&D professionals who want to join the industry to walk in as a company rather than an individual?
The biggest thing is content. So these freelancers didn't have that, right? One person, how much content can you build? My suggestion is rely on your content, number one. Figure out what you're trying to do. Going into the company is definitely a good idea. What I would say is bunch up with a setup. See, best is cooperative movement.
Okay.
That's a way, to be another example, consulting companies. That's what works. In learning and development, if you're be a consulting company where you're managing partners. You have multiple managing partners who come with different skill sets and they're good at it. So what happens is, then you're not exhausting your skills very quickly. And also, you can cross-pollinate. Like I can do 2 hours of X content, somebody else can give Y content 2 hours, somebody can give Z content for or Z content for something. So what happens, you're cross-pollinated for that 6 hours. And also your diversified audiences. Today's world is entirely different. I can't even give this answer to today's world. I will simply say, don't even try doing it. Yeah, because you know what, the audience have changed drastically, Jay. Think about Gen Z, who born post the millennium. These guys, at a very early age at least, have a huge access to content. If their acceptance rate is reduced a lot, they're very skeptic. They're not openly accepting. Skepticism is huge. So you really need to go an extra mile to get them to your attention. Say, you know what, hey, this content is sense, you got to use it. After that 1 hour I spent with you on that mixed reality or 30 minutes in the mixed reality, whatever that we do, content, did I learn? Can I do tomorrow at work? What your L&D is to ask today, the guys are intelligent to say, can I do it today work? Can I tomorrow in a project that has been given to me, can I execute this knowledge?
Yes.
That's a good part about it, okay? So people are now, whatever minimal you teach, they are ready to. Acceptance is low. Please understand this. There's two different things, okay? I repeated myself. Acceptance is low, application is high.
Okay.
Earlier used to be extremely inverse. Huge acceptance, no application.
Hi, welcome to the Immersive Edge podcast powered by mix3d. This is where content producers meet content buyers. When I say content producers, I am referring to corporate trainers, corporate training companies, educational content providers, and the likes of them. Content buyers, when I say, they are your L&OD professionals, human resource professionals, largely organizations who look forward to the content that the producers are making. If you're somebody who's looking forward to join the industry or looking to be discovered by the industry, this is the podcast you must be in. Our guest today is possibly one of the finest solution architects in the country. He started his career selling Maruti cars. Since then, he has sold IT solutions, knowledge management products, training courses, and simulations. He promotes a consulting firm called Winverve, a man with an informed opinion on almost all subjects. It is my pleasure to host this conversation with Mr. Sunil Kumar. Welcome, Sunil. Welcome to the Immersive Edge podcast.
Hey, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me here. It is wonderful, as usual, to be with Jai Chandran.
Thank you. And, as you know, this is not scripted. This is a conversation that both of us are having. We continue to have.
With you, never been scripted anyway, so nothing new.
Welcome again. For one reason that, I've always wanted you on the podcast for two things. One, you've sold training.
Yes.
And you've sold solutions.
Correct.
Right? And I always kept telling you, boss, you
Small
can
correction there. I actually built a training program for how to build solutions.
Yes, also.
Sorry, go ahead.
And I've always told you this. You can arrange solutions in a way that it'll actually work. And that is something that, I've always wanted to learn from you. I continue to learn from you. And this podcast, just wanted to kind of give you an introduction to the viewership that we have,
Okay.
largely content producers like your corporate trainers,
Wow.
corporate training companies,
Wow.
buyers like our L&OD professionals, HR professionals, right? They're largely the audience base for the Immersive Edge,
Correct.
right? So you can possibly, align this entire conversation towards our viewers.
I'll try to. That's a good pointer.
And we don't ask anyone to like, subscribe.
Come back again, watch me twice.
No, if you find this meaningful,
Makes sense, yeah.
then I'm certain you will subscribe. And
Sure.
the whole purpose of this is to ensure that if somebody is looking to join the L&OD business, they should
agree.
find meaning with this.
I agree.
I think the most frivolous meaning is, you can do lesser days of work and make more money. I don't think those days are gone,
Yeah, you're right. It's a different attitude. You're correct. I agree with you.
right? So your journey, for the viewers, you were selling training for a training company.
Yeah, about a decade back.
A
More than
decade ago.
2 decades ago, sorry. 2007. So it's
Almost 2 decades ago. And then we worked together at Wisdom Tools.
Yeah.
We sold simulation-based training programs when people knew what simulation was, but they were not buying. So we literally created a category together,
Correct.
right? And then you moved on to start Winverve in the knowledge management space. And we were speaking before the podcast,
Yeah.
and you told me about how you've mutated from knowledge management to SCM. Right?
Correct.
We will deep dive into that.
And
Trust me,
digital options,
SCM was something that kind of got my attention, saying I really need to introduce our viewers to this.
Yeah, for
People
who know less, it's supply chain management. So yeah, you're right. For
would
someone
not know
who's been
that-
in IT
Correct.
and ITS, supply chain management, yeah, that's a huge jump. I agree with you.
Yeah. So that's largely the context. So let's start with, we're going to imagine all of this in Technicolor.
Yeah.
Back in the days, 2 decades ago, when you were selling training, what were the few things that, was the obstacles that you faced to complete a solution, present it, and take a purchase order? How long was the cycle?
Good question. I'm just going to jog my memory out. See, one about solutions. I'll go one step behind solution. It's about creating a need.
Right.
See, that was the biggest challenge out there at that time.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people didn't see the need for the level of, what we were targeting, and it's a very good target place that I got into, were first-time manager programs. That was something we got into, and we very specifically got into functional skills. We said, you know what, hey, let's do a first-time manager, let him get into functional skill part of the business. Now, this where the tricky part came in. So, the audience that we targeted.
Right.
The audience that we targeted were predominantly what we called as IT-enabled services at that time.
Correct.
Call them back office, you call them KPOs, BPOs, and all of those words. Yeah, we have BPM now, sorry. And I'm sure it's muted into some other thing that you and I may not be knowing
know.
right now. Not been to the NASSCOM summit recently, so I'm sure they've coined something out. But fairly largely, that's where it was. So this was a very alien industry. Let me be very clear when I say alien industry. The reason why I call it alien industry was most people who are working in that industry didn't actually experience anything in their real life. So let's take a simple example. Let's take the classic example of PFSI, which is banking, financial services, and insurance.
Right.
Right? This in early 2000s or mid 2000s, at least for the people who are joining, who are basically fresh graduates, 22, 23-year-olds.
Millennials of today.
Yeah, millennials of today. You're perfectly right. So what happened to them was, these guys never experienced banking. Banking was not that prevalent, right?
Correct. I think most of that generation got their first bank accounts when they joined a company.
Yeah, salaried accounts.
Salaried accounts, yes.
Your typical Citibank salaried account.
Correct.
That was the first people who came, right?
Right.
So the challenge with them was they were trying to do, like, for example, a KYC, know your customer. When know your customer in real world didn't exist for us here.
Correct.
Right? So, or for that matter, trying to talk to someone. And some people, some of my customers used to do investment banking. They used to do help in transactional transfers, due diligence. And these are young commerce graduates who are trying to do this, or some of them in science graduates trying to do this, or they also came from a parallel industry, which was hospitality.
Correct. And I had a lot of my managers who were from the hospitality
Hospitality.
business. Yes.
Because the only qualification they had was they could speak good English.
Yeah.
They were polite.
Yeah. And customer service came naturally.
Actually, right?
Yeah.
So, but think about it. End of the day, whatever you get qualified for, basically, you're actually doing this KYC. Think about it. You're actually doing this KYC. You're actually doing check transactions, moving one money to the other place and things like those, which was alien. So you can't relate to it.
Correct.
So you lived in a world where you come out of the world, the nice swanky building that you were part of. ITPL is one example.
ITPL, yes. Everybody
Going
wanted
there
to work
was
there.
going there was a big exciting thing.
Correct.
Now, when they come out of the place, what used to happen was they come to the reality of the world, right? Think about training these people to do it as they actually experiencing it. Can you imagine it?
Correct.
So functional skills had a good challenge. They had a challenge of requirement training, but everybody thought, I need my guys to be trained in banking. They need to be trained in insurance. They need to be trained in financial services, which is good. But what they forgot was, these guys who are getting trained needs to be managed from people who actually understand not just the BFSI. They need to understand the human element of those people who never have faced it in the situation.
Correct.
If somebody had to call me and say, my bank account has been 10 days not open till date, the guy wouldn't even relate to it.
Yeah, in India, you waited for long for everything.
Correct. And he says, for example, you take away from BFSI, take telecom. He says, my connection is patchy. I don't get the connection out here. He wouldn't even understand. Nobody even owned a mobile phone or a landline. So, for example, one of the telephone companies, you must have worked on it also, which had switching capabilities from one service provider to the other.
Correct.
We had BSNL here.
Only.
And not every household has a phone also.
Correct.
Right?
We had this famous thing, no? PP number.
Still prevalent, right?
Yeah.
So suddenly, now you are trying to tell the guy to switch connection and you're doing outbound call, okay? You're calling somebody and trying to tell him why your, AT&T is better than a Bell or something like that.
Yeah.
And this guy has to relate to it. Now, the point was where you trained him technically, functionally how he is going to function. How a manager is going to manage them became a challenge. That's the opportunity that I got into.
The first time managers program.
Yes, first time managers. So what happened was now going to their training heads, L&D heads and things and telling them, listen, you're already overwhelmed because you're trying to teach a bunch of guys to use telecom, trying to use BFSI. I want you to take another challenge, which is to train their managers. That itself, just telling them that there is a need itself floored them out. They said, wow.
So was it easier to sell?
Very tough. Contrary to it. The need was there, but they couldn't get their heads turned around to this as a priority.
So they didn't recognize it.
Priority. It's a simple case of priority. See, there it was easy for me to scale from 100 to 1,000. 900 guys coming in that month needs to be trained on telecom. Versus 20 of those managers of those 900 need to be trained on functional skills. What's your priority today?
Yeah.
Right? You're simply going to say 900 is a priority, 20 is not my priority.
Correct.
I don't want to do that. And obviously, you know what? 900 costs you X. Managed training will cost you X plus 2. So there's a question of spend.
Why should I?
Where should I? More than why, where? Where will I spend? I've got $100. Where do I spend it?
Right.
I know I'm going to get the maximum mileage spending on those 900 people rather than spending on 20 people, sorry.
And they are billable. There goes the
billable.
Priorities.
Absolutely. So initially it took time, but coming to 2007-10, transformation happened. What was the transformation? Learning, the scale of growth reduced.
In that 2000...
In that industry, ITES industry, scale of growth was not that, it was still there, but they're not the heady highs, right? You're not hiring 900,000 people a month. You're doing 100, 200, 300. And why you're doing so less? That also became because bigger problems started facing, attrition.
So you're not necessarily growing, you're refilling.
Backfilling. Not refilling, you're backfilling, which is a bigger challenge. A backfill is a big challenge. Simply because of two things, right? One, in a backfilling, you're doing two important work. One is you're trying to compensate the knowledge of the end employee. The guy who's gone in took away his knowledge. You need to speed him up. And secondly, you're giving it to a bunch of guys. See, a lot of these people who grew up to first-time managers, that level were because of same reason. They grew up because of attrition. Everybody had tried it. He was the only knowledgeable guy out there in that process.
So you had...
What do you want to be? You had no choice. Only skill you to look was what?
Was he a people's person?
Not even that. Only skill you look for is technical skills. Does he know how to do this? He knows the job. So logically, I think he'll train 10 people.
Okay.
Right? So he's in the floor managing these people, 10 new guys. The guy knows only technical. He has no clue about the other skills that you just told me about.
Right.
What is going to happen?
Hmm.
He's not going to empathize. He's not going to relate to people. He's not going to know what is he working for, what is the end goal is. That's the opportunity that we landed in 2007. And unfortunately, we were the only organization landed there. That was the golden era.
Oh, brilliant. And, just you can actually refuse to answer this, but then, a lot of our viewers would want to know what is the market scale at that point, or, the target market, what is the value of it?
Are you looking at dollar value or that kind
Indian
of the
rupees,
number
yeah,
of people? Indian rupees. Indian rupees is huge, yeah. I would easily say it was at least 150, 200 crore kind of market at the back then. That kind of money then.
Wow.
That's the kind of market it was.
So tell me this, I keep asking this to all my podcast guests, okay? The training industry is large in our country.
Correct, it is.
Yeah,
It's
we have
been
6,500 plus registered training companies. But I'm not able to see.
That.
Yeah, we have 6,500.
Wow.
And we have 1.5 lakh corporate trainers.
That I can believe.
Right? Now, just sheer numbers of it. I don't see 100 plus crore training company at all.
Even back then, we figured it out. Okay, that's a very nice question, right? The company that we were part of also was not making that much. They're not even making double digits.
Yeah.
Okay, why? If the market size is so big, and assuming that whole market size is that big, and you even look at, say, 25% of the market rate is what the functional training skills could be. Let's assume that.
Okay.
Even then, you're not making double digits. Talks a lot about you, right?
Correct.
And you are the best. You had a early advantage of 3-4 years before this boom started. You were there, so you went through the whole tough times of convincing people, selling people. Because post 2007-8, you don't have to sell. You just have to tell you're there, and people used to pick you up. That was that simple. Even then, you need to understand why didn't we go double digit?
Why?
Fragmentation. See, point was, please understand this. Today, the world is a little bit changed, not too much changed. L&D was that time a learning and development or organization development. There are different words to use. T&D, training and development, was predominantly a cost center. Predominantly. Because, as you rightly said this some time back, you said, no, they don't get paid.
Yeah.
And T&D and L&D was also somebody who never got paid for it, right? In the sense, customer or nobody bankrolled you.
Right.
If I'm an entrepreneur or if I'm an individual company, I have to bankroll you for teaching. Then I had to do a lot of effort to make sure you're relevant by doing an ROI or anything like that. Some kind of mechanism to make you relevant.
Correct.
Even that was very minimal. Because training never measured. That's another challenge, right?
Yeah.
We never used to measure training. Training was never measured for outcome because we always used to have this, now it's a different language. Then you used to always be like, it's intangible.
Correct.
Please feel the effort. You see that has gone good, this has gone good, but nothing has gone good. You don't know. How do you quantify it? So a business guy, a pragmatic, now that you're a CEO for a long, long time, if I had to come and tell you, feel good factor, spend a couple of crores, would you really think about it? Maybe that's 1% of your budget. How much would you even be inclined to do it?
Very little. Yeah, firewalks and all of that.
Yeah. So I will say really need it. Then you know what? It became a line item in my budget. That's the way it ended up being. So coming back to the point, what happened was the biggest pressure was cost. I can't spend so much money. So if you go for an organized organization like the one I used to work for, I think there should be a cost because we were really good. Takes the top class. But I have to do the training. I can't afford you because I don't have one chunk of money out there. So this gets fragmented to that 1.5 lakh thing. I wouldn't think it would be very exaggerated low. 1.5 would be 75,000 or 80,000 that time. There were still people who were doing training.
Correct.
So this gets fragmented. Think about this getting fragmented into smaller portions. It's not an organized sector. So what happens there is everybody gets a chunk, a small chunk.
And they're happy.
Yeah. The guys who are very seriously used to pay up large companies like us, or another thing which came in was large companies from outside the country. That's also became a big thing because management was always associated with the Western world. So people used to travel. Western hemisphere got a lot of these businesses. They were expensive, but they were what they called that time as necessary evil. Because a white skin, a person out there in the Western hemisphere was considered, you would be definitely better than the other. Like typical anything, Jai, as we keep seeing, right? You taste the Western, then you realize, okay, we had that back home here, or that's what exactly happened. So To answer your question, why not big? Fragmented. And we figured it out very clearly fragmented. It's not something organization even thought about it. And again,
When you say fragmented also, I remember that you would, after sourcing a job, also look for
Yeah.
facilitators outside.
outside.
And just to give you, I'm just thinking about all the freelancers that you would reach out to.
Correct.
They were all from the LNOD space, vice president, senior manager level, who have quit their corporate jobs.
Correct. Either currently working or probably quit, and the entrepreneur bug, hit them. You would say, right?
And yeah, I understand. And of course, they'll do a fantastic job in the program, right? I mean, they're able to kind of keep the people interested. All of that is
They're
fine.
good at it. Trust me on it. See, that's what I'm saying. The beautiful thing, they were talent in-house. They were good at it. Trust me, they were very good at it. It's the bug, they say, right? The bug problem is that they only catch up for some time. After that, the bug hits you back.
So they're largely one-man companies.
Yeah, and flash in the pan kind of thing. See, you run out of content after some time.
How much money do you think they'll be able to rake in 1 year? A good, decent senior leader.
He would see a senior leader is a good guy. That back then, he easily took about, say, 20 lakhs or something he could make without any problem.
20 lakhs around. And how many days do you think he would be working in a month?
In a month, 10 days, 10 to 12 days. That's it.
So this is like, this became the haven for people who have spent a lot of time in the corporate, now want to take it easy, and they have the skills. So they decide to work fewer number of days in a month. And companies like yourself would actually reach out to them, give them
and
assignment.
also direct L&D guys knew them because they were their seniors, bosses, or they would have worked somewhere else.
Conferences.
Some conferences, somewhere you would have get it. But like any other freelance, as I would call it, as individual thing, you run out of steam here.
After a point.
You have to. See, I'm telling 1 year as an average. Not everybody lasted a year itself.
Oh, okay. They'll find another job?
No, they'll find a situation where they will be forced to get to another job. The thing is, see, please understand this. The whole thing about was they were in a secure job, right? And it was just kind of know what it is. Here, suddenly, you don't have a secure job. This 20 lakhs is a good number after the year to look for. When you're going through this, you really don't see that kind of money, right?
Because you do a program, your money is not coming tomorrow.
Yeah, it takes 60 days, 90 days,
Yeah.
30 days, and then you need to do number of follow-ups. Then you need bills to pay every month. Then you figured out, the earlier job of actually getting paid every month was a much easier job. So people used to shift, don't have the tenacity. See, it's like any other entrepreneurial thing, yeah. Not everybody stays an entrepreneur forever, right? They go back to that, whatever reason. Everybody has their own reasoning to go back. That happened a lot. That means even an organization like mine, where the one used to work for, rather, had to go for this freelancer, was a short-term bit. That's another big thing which happened. Why you can go to double figures. They all had to go fix full-time trainers. Once they picked up the full-time trainer thing, you're the same manager working for a big guy, wants the same kind of salary, working for a cost center-led business, which is training. That puts pressures on the company, right? You can't pay the same kind of money, same kind of salaries. And think, even if you work for a company, you're still busy for 10 days only. The next 20 days, the trainer gets paid from the training company for not training. It's like the airline company telling, I'll have a flight, which is expensive. I'll not fly for 20 days of the month, but whole year I need to pay, whole month rather, I need to pay for maintenance, upkeep, everything which goes with it, except fuel.
High OPEX.
And also think about it. What happens to an aircraft that does not fly for 20 days? 30th day, you need so much maintenance that it will not be flight worthy. Right?
Correct.
The whole idea is it should be flight worthy. Same thing happens to people, right? If you are junked in, sitting in, and you're going to get your salary, not learning anything, sitting in one room or working on your laptop, doing some miscellaneous work. One fine day, you're supposed to go train certain set of people.
Is that why largely training companies are small and they prefer to keep facilitation on a freelance basis?
That's the way it started. Now it's changing. Now it's a different world that we live in, but that's the way it was then. So they were trying to figure it out. Okay. And also, that's also the reason why a lot of learning heads, might be some of your audience today who are actually very proficient trainers right now, or facilitators or head of businesses, actually had very skeptical, to be right word, to use for companies to sign up immediately, because they had solutions which are good, but they know they couldn't pull it off. That was the challenge, right? So the challenge was, bigger thing was content. And coming back to that part, because you said content at the beginning of this conversation, even back then, even today, the biggest thing is content. So these freelancers didn't have that, right? One person, how much content can you build?
And another thing that I remember, I was speaking to this vice president of learning and development in a huge 30,000 crore company. So he says, I meet fantastic trainers through the month. They have great ideas. I have one scare. I prefer to do businesses with private limited companies
Correct.
than individuals.
I
So
agree.
I was like, tell me more. So he said, see, private limited companies, you can't shut it down just like that.
Correct.
Right? So even if it's a private limited company, and if they've survived for 3-4 years, gives me confidence that whatever good thing that they're doing, they'll be able to replicate it, reproduce similar results over a period of time. See, a great idea is a flash in the pan if in case you're not going to be replicating it further.
Correct.
So would you suggest the learning and development professionals or wannabe L&D professionals who want to join the industry to walk in as a company rather than an individual?
It depends, yeah. Frankly, it's a very tough question to answer because I'll give you my opinion. It may not be the right best opinion out there, at least for being long in training and seeing so many of the freelancers out there and things. My suggestion is rely on your content, number one. Figure out what you're trying to do. Going into the company is definitely a good idea. What I would say is bunch up with a set of, best is cooperative movement.
Okay.
That's a way, to be another example, consulting companies. That's what works. In learning and development, if you're be a consulting company where you're managing partners. You're multiple managing partners who come with different skill sets and they're good at it. So what happens is then you're not exhausting your skills very quickly. And also, you can cross-pollinate. Like I can do 2 hours of X content, somebody else can give Y content 2 hours, somebody can give Z content or Z content for something. So what happens, you cross-pollinated for that 6 hours. And also your diversified audiences.
You can reach to
Absolutely. You're
different
satisfied with
verticals.
what you can do. Today's world is different. I've not even come to today's world. This was reality back in 2007 also. Today's world is entirely different. I can't even give this answer to today's world. I would simply say, don't even try doing it.
Yeah.
Because you know what? The audience have changed drastically, Jay.
Tell me more. So the millennials are now all senior leaders. Most of them are senior leaders, or at least in mid-level management.
Mid-level. Not even senior, mid-level.
Mid-level.
Mid to low-level seniors.
Right. And you see Gen Z coming in. We know that they have low attention spans, all of that. What is the fundamental difference between the millennials and the Gen Z when it comes to, adapting to content or adopting content?
Acceptance.
Okay.
See, earlier we talk millennials who are learning, the guys who are training right now, leaders, acceptance was very high in terms of necessity to work. So there was a need, they need to be working. So there was a need for it.
Correct.
Financially or otherwise, whatever. It was a need to work. So the acceptance, and they also knew they were lacking knowledge. Because the exposure to knowledge was very limited. What knowledge I had? Maybe a maximum, even if you had to go to Google only had only certain content, right?
Correct.
Certain people used to talk. Think about Gen Z, who born post the millennium.
Correct.
These guys, at a very early age at least, have a huge access to content, diverse content. So, for example, if I have to go to an interview of the same nature of job, of telecom switching we spoke in the beginning, today probably I would have consumed about couple hours of knowledge on the telecom and probably beat you down in the training, in the interview itself.
Correct.
The interviewer will feel, he knows more than I do, right? Only thing you'll end up searching is for relevance. This guy will be relevant to anything. That's the way it is.
Right.
So that is changed, number one. Number two, that I would say is different for the millennials to learn about.
Gen Z.
There are to millennials to teach, sorry, that's the right word. Gen Z to learn, millennials to teach, is their acceptance rate has reduced a lot. They're very skeptic, They're not openly accepting. Skepticism is huge. So you really need to go an extra mile to get them to your attention. To say, you know what, hey, this content is sense, you got to use it.
One other thing I've noticed about Gen Z, this is again in one of the consulting work that we did using mixed reality. We figured out that earlier we would sit down to understand the context and the scenario before the actual job was introduced. Today, people don't want to know context. What is the job?
What should I actually perform?
Yeah, so it's simple.
Point A to point B.
Point B, yeah, it's simple. So if
True,
you
travel.
were to show Sholay, which is 3.5 hours, right, and you show it to the Gen Zs, they look at it and say, "What is all this?" Simple. But if you repackage Sholay as Kill Gabbar in 10 steps,
I know.
now they want to know what are the 10 steps. So you can still show them the same film,
Correct.
but then you'll have to put those fillers saying step 1,
Step.
higher.
That's a good question, Jay. Why do you think that's happened? I'm going to reverse this out. Why do you think that step 1 step? That's exactly the point I was trying to drive when I said from then to now. The third point which I said about knowledge is this exactly this 10 steps. Why do you think you need step 1, step 2, step 3?
I think they prefer to just be done with the job. Give me precise instructions. I'll deal with it.
I call this as, this is something which I've coined in myself, saying this is called framework-based learning.
Okay.
See, right from your education has changed, right? So everything from a college to school to everything, right, has got a framework. What is a framework? If you go by the definition of framework, it's a step model to reach an end goal. It's a very instructive model to reach an end goal. That's a framework, right? For example, you put a consulting framework. You say, let's take the famous one we used to use. What is that? I'm just trying to test your memory.
Alzheimer's, maybe. We had multiple. We had
No,
4
the
Ds.
1, 3 thing, the 4 Ds. Let's take 4 Ds.
4
What is
Ds.
this? Define, develop, deploy.
Deploy and finally.
Let's take these 3. Yeah. Let's, for our argument's sake, What is define, develop, deploy? Why did we use that? See, we basically said, hey, we do requirement gathering, we define your requirement. We'll build something for you, which is develop part, and we deploy it. So 3D model, we said. See, understand this. If 3D model worked, why were you see? Some of your audience, you said, L&D managers, they actually bought us at that time, right?
Correct.
The 3D model was bought from us. They said, hey, this works. Why? Because they could understand what they're going to end up with and an ROI could be defined. Correct. They say, okay, the first D takes 2 weeks. The second D takes 10 weeks. The third D takes 2 weeks. So how much is it now? 14 weeks. They know at the end of the 14 week, this is what I'm going to get. I'm going to get a website, which can be simulation, which an instructor can train or I can go back and instruct and things. So it was very well defined. Or for that matter, when I was doing the first time manager, we said we are phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 kind of model, where we do a pre-work, then train, then do post-program measurement. That's the way we built it. That was a framework. So typical frameworks work that way. Move this framework that you are learning when you are in 30s, 10 years behind, when you are learning in your 18s, in your teens and late teens and early this one. Today, academics have become framework based. Right? They are telling you in schools and colleges, that's what the framework is. In engineering college or a graduation program that you join, it's a framework. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. Step 3, end of that, you get certificate.
Right.
That could be in trimesters, semesters or annual. So today it's not anymore a semester, right? You're talking about trimesters now. Forget about semesters. Trimester only you and I heard when?
Yeah, I think when we were becoming parents.
Right? Today, trimesters are something which my son who's in 11th grade understands. Oh, every 3 months exam is there. I have to study. Why is it? Because they simply have a framework saying, forget what you learned the first 3 months. We'll teach you something for the next 3 months.
Wow.
When I was in semester, it was a continual program. Just had an exam in the between, right? When we were doing graduation. Today, it's completely very simple. They say, what you learn in the first 3 months, don't worry. Next 3 months, will not teach you. We'll only test you for those 3 months.
Wow.
Right? Think about it. And it's a reality, right? Today, in your 10th standard examination, there are 38 subjects that you can choose from to become.
Really? 38
subjects, yeah.
Right. I have
not just the 5
children,
or 6,
so
4, 3, whatever the maths. And maths is optional today. You know that, right?
Maths in
your high school is optional. You don't want to take maths, you can take simple math or even drop math in your 10th exam.
Right.
So I'm just giving, let's not go to education quality, but what I'm trying to say is they build framework wise.
Okay.
Now, when you get to work, what you're doing is what they want, right? Because they've been taught that way. So let's not go to the cons. We can go to any argument saying this is good or bad or anything else.
Well,
it's a different
besides the
argument.
point,
Besides the point, right? So what I'm trying to tell you is this is a reality. So what you're doing is a reality. That's the way it is learned for. Because also, as I told you, now what your L&D heads used to do, telling that I invest 14 weeks, I get an ROI, individuals started doing it. After that 1 hour I spent with you on that mixed reality or 30 minutes in the mixed reality, whatever that we do, content, did I learn? Can I do tomorrow at work? What your L&D used to ask today, the guys are intelligent to say, can I do it today work? Can I tomorrow in a project that has been given to me, can I execute this knowledge?
Yes.
That's a good part about it, okay? So people are now whatever minimal you teach, they're ready to. Acceptance is low. Please understand this. This is two different things, okay? I repeated myself. Acceptance is low, application is high.
Okay.
Earlier used to be extremely inverse. Huge acceptance, no application. People used to struggle with application, right? You remember we used to do that phase 3 and all in our programs where we used to tell people implement. We used to give a checklist, no?
Yeah.
To tell 10 things to do at work.
Yeah. What will you do after this program? And
I don't think you're doing that anymore, right?
we don't. Nobody is even asking.
Nobody, because they know they're not going to do it. They're going to do it what they feel like doing it. But today, the diligence of doing it is improved. Because you know what? Where acceptance is, why is acceptance low then?
Tell us.
You can't sell garbage anymore, which you used to do earlier. For example, I can do 2 case studies in a training program earlier, which used to work. Wow. I remember still, when we used to do operations management as a program, we used to give that Ford example, how factory line works. Today also it's amazing example, but nobody accepts it. They say, okay, nice. It's like that games in training, games in training we used to have.
Correct.
Some of those websites we used to go learn training games. Do you think we can do games in training
I don't think
today,
you can
right?
pull it off.
So point is the same way case studies are. Nobody is going to, they'll get excited. Wow, Ford was built, Model T was built like that, is it? But they're immediately going to turn and say, tell me how do I build my job with Model T? Come on.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. So today, the content that you deliver, acceptance is low, application is high, means what should I do?
Focus on application, make content local.
Absolutely. Make it more accessible. But that does not mean make it technical.
Yeah.
Accessible. See, the word I use very carefully, I choose to use is the word accessible. Accessibility is where you can actually use it. Now, today, for example, you have to give a very vague example. Not vague, sorry. Very relatable example is the right word. It's about Swiggy and Zomato. When would you want? Both do the same job, almost the same thing.
Correct.
Even from a dining, everything, they're almost the same. Why would you want to use Swiggy and Zomato? Why not one? Or a Flipkart and an Amazon? There are many more. I'm sure.
Yeah, plenty
Swiggy
of
and
duopolies,
Zomato,
correct.
many more. But why these two? Why Flipkart? I can do Amazon only, right? Or a Flipkart. Why these two? Have you ever thought about it?
No, I have not.
Same acceptance issue, man. What works for me? Some people have this affinity towards a brand. Earlier, I only wear a Nike. I like to be seen in a Puma, whatever it was. Today, that has happened with what is relating to me. Some people swear by Swiggy. I'm sure it's the same with Zomato.
Yeah.
You may not use so much. Your kids use it.
Yeah.
Or your people at workplace use it. So what I'm trying to tell is, why those two choices? Acceptance. So you can't sell garbage, as I told you. One bad experience, they'll move from one to another.
Yeah.
Right? So your content and your training or doing anything which now you're trying to change people's work behavior. You have to be that much more experienced, right? You need to be that much more application oriented. Tell them, how this works in a day-to-day life. So it's not technical. So nobody's interested why Swiggy can deliver in 15 minutes. What is the technology behind them? One app goes there, somebody gets it, hotel gets a receipt. You and I may be excited about that whole back end. What's a general public excited about?
How soon?
Simple, right? 15 minutes, you could deliver it to me. I'm not even worried about how did you do this exercise, right? That is what is content. Think about in training. I've come to this program. I'm going to sit for 30 minutes, 1 hour, 4 hours, 8 hours, whatever time that I want to sit. End of it, will I be able to go and perform better? Because I know today's world, people are very, very open to the fact that if I don't perform, I don't survive. Nobody, I think, today, let's take Mixed Reality as a company or Winverve as a company or Wisdom Tools as a company. I don't think we also are signing up people saying they'll be there for 5 years, right?
Or we're not looking at it from a perspective. We don't even imagine the entire employee life cycle up to retirement.
Forget retirement. I'm saying 5 years. Forget about retirement. If you can retain them, I don't think we think that much when you hire, that will he be there for. I might be thinking, will he there for next year? That's my reality today, right? If I can hold him back for next year, that's something I was sharing outside the podcast when I told you, is that how the generation has changed, how an employee used to be happy joining. Today, the employer is happy he's joining.
Correct. Right? If you could actually bring that out for our audience, that time
span, right?
Timeline
so
that you mentioned.
I should credit somebody who read this one, not my code, unfortunately. So this guy actually wrote very nicely. He said, in the early 70s, we are grateful to get a job. 80s, you're happy you got a job. Right? I'm saying people who were born in 80s, not the guys who are there. People who were born like us, 90s, 80s born or 70s born, whatever it is. 90s, when you got the job, you're really grateful. You got a job and you're doing and you're doing that. Then the millennials started where it was mutual. Oh, I found a job. There was job aplenty, but once I get a job, at least hold on to it. I don't want to be quitting. 6 months, 1 year. If I may join 2-3 jobs, but the third job will be a permanent job where I need to grow.
Yeah.
Today it's entirely different. And even then they were grateful. They used to do welcome and all. Today it is entirely inversed. It is the employer who is extremely grateful to you that you joined the job.
Right.
See, when you are grateful to join the job, where does your loyalty lie? It's inversely now. Where does the company's loyalty lie? It is.
Correct.
Loyalty lies with the employee. What are you doing for the employee? And the employee started demanding the same thing like the employer used to demand earlier. The organizations to demand that you work hard, put that extra 2 hours, learn some new skill and come. The employee is telling, what did I learn from you? Give me that extra skill that, you put 2 hours more on me.
Yeah.
You put 3 hours more on me. You give me new things. You give me that mixed reality, whatever it is, to make me more better. Because I know, and the employer knows very well, the guy who's providing the job knows very well that he will use his skill here or outside. But I have to skill him any which ways.
Right.
That's a twin-edged sword. So I skill them and make sure they retain this here. So what are these companies doing? And that's the reality for every company. They, on the back end, are innovating themselves so that they can catch up with this. So that they are, most innovations earlier was for market space, sales and other things. Today's innovation are also, some portion of it, and it's going to go bigger, is that how it excites my own employees to work for me.
So you're selling the job to your team.
From an organization perspective, no more HR perspective. Earlier, a good cafeteria with multiple cuisines and a good refrigerator and a 24 hours beverages worked doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, now it's taken for
given,
granted.
Right?
Yeah.
Even if today, for example, the Marriott, if you go for a brunch, it's overbooked. Yeah. In Bangalore Marriott, your brunch is overbooked. You don't get seats when you go on a Sunday. And Marriott brunch, it's something which is not a common man can afford. It's overbooked. So they've seen that luxury. So showing that at office, big deal. I can afford it myself.
Right.
Today with, food apps, for example, I can get any food, exotic food that I need at my doorstep. So that's not exciting anymore to me, right? So what's exciting? I am also investing into myself now, thinking, okay, I have competition. And, thanks to all people telling new generation, youngest India. So people want to invest in themselves. People learn from Instagram today, right?
Yeah.
A lot of these new things are learned in Instagram. And the best part is you have your own feed. So if you're a finance guy, you will get a million videos of your own feed of finance.
Of
your
your
learning.
interest.
Please understand, he's learning there also.
Correct.
So what are you teaching me when you come to work?
So another thing that you mentioned before the podcast that caught my attention about, in my personal space, I'm able to book a cab.
That's the second part. Okay. That is an extension. That's a very nice word. Extension is, that's where Winverve got into digital. Let me tell Winverve's story here so that you will understand this better. So when I started Winverve in 2018, my focus was very clearly into knowledge management. We said we'll curate knowledge so people to use it and also use it for training people faster, especially on functional skills, because we felt, technical skills, we felt there is a lot of tacit knowledge in the organization.
For our viewers.
Yeah, I was about to explain
tacit.
I was about to say. Tacit is the knowledge which the employee has in his mind, who's got that skill, working skill. Right. For example, you don't need a measuring plate to say this is 12 mm by 15 mm. He can see it and say there's a 12 mm, 15 mm dia.
By experience.
Experience, and also he has a logic for explaining it. He says, okay, this screw which goes inside this, or a nut, or a bolt rather, a bolt that goes into it, comes by default to 15 mm bolt.
You see the bolt, you know what it is.
This bolt is there, the machine size is only 15 mm, it can't be 20 mm. He'll tell you by that because he knows a machine bolt. A new guy coming needs a tape to do that. Right? Because that bolt, make and the manufacturer name, he knows, he's been using it for 10 years. But how do you capture that for organization? That guy may be retiring, he may quit, he may do whatever he wants, and he may grow up to a bigger leader. How do you capture? And that's true even for, a banking guy, for example. He knows on a Tuesday, between 8 to 9 in the evening, you'll have the highest transaction amount coming from investment bankers. He knows it. He's been doing it for donkey's years or whatever that you call that as. He's doing it. How do you transfer? So that was the initial idea which Winverve started out saying, let's capture those tacit information within an organization and document it. We went there, we did it. Then we realized people aren't using tacit information anymore.
Oh, okay.
Why are they not using tacit information anymore? Then we came to the next part, which we find they are not using tacit information anymore because organizations are not global anymore. Let's not confuse ourselves with the word global. Let me make it very clear. Organization like Wisdom Tools is a global in itself. It's having 4 locations or Winverve in 2 locations. That's global because Winverve talking at the higher end. But Winverve or Wisdom Tools for that matter has one in Bangalore, one in Madurai, one in probably, let's assume it's in Mumbai. That is a local world for them. Because that employee is learning from Madurai, he's learning from Bangalore, he's learning from... So we started calling something called local content. Okay, which is going actually being, localized, to be precise. In your city, for example, in a city like Bangalore, let's take for example. How many people, you and I used to go to, you are in Koramangala, is about 20 kilometers from here?
About, yeah.
Used to travel that for a dinner earlier. Yeah. Can you imagine going to Koramangala from where communally we are in right now to Koramangala? Not possible, right?
We won't.
You won't. Because why?
It'll come to you.
Your place, especially communally, has got everything out there. My place, everything is out there. So it's local. Content got localized, knowledge got localized, accessibility got localized. So Winverve realized it very clearly. At least we realized it. It's becoming local. So he's finding convenient to turn around and ask the guy neighboring, saying, hey, do you have this knowledge? He'll consume it. Or go to web, consume it. Go to Instagram, consume it. Same way happened to knowledge of Tacit also. So we said we got to go a little bigger. So what is the deficiency of being local? Let me ask you that question now. What's the deficiency of your Madurai being within Madurai and not being you in Bangalore?
Exposure to, few things.
I'm talking as a business owner. Forget about their people. Business owner. They will get exposed to whole world. Yeah, Instagram is there.
Yeah.
The biggest problem the organization used to face was they don't exactly know what's happening locally. So there's no centralized information data anymore with me.
Right.
The guy is talking to the neighbor. He's sending out some information to the customer. How do I know that information is what I would like Wisdom Tools to send or Winverve has to send from globally?
Got it.
If it is sent, let's take a classic example of a sale. Okay. He has actually documented sales within his Excel sheet or something like that and put to a customer. His local boss knows. His local people know this bid is done. But I'm sitting in Bangalore. I have no clue that, 10 lakh rupee sale is being under progress because I don't have data for that.
Right.
Once a week, if Excel comes to me and that guy happens to mention to me, I realize, how do I propagate it to Mumbai, everywhere else that's happening? Or for example, I'm the delivery guy. Let's take a training company. I got 10 people, trainers sitting in Bangalore, has to go to Madurai. I really don't know how to send because I don't know forecasting. I don't know how to do knowledge. I don't know how much to produce, nothing. So we got tools. I have a classic answer to use. You will come back and say, Sunil, have a CRM. Yeah, you're being foolish.
Yeah.
CRM is there. Nobody's using it.
Adoption of CRM is a problem. Okay.
Because they feel, I spoke to that guy information, I sent a proposal quickly to the customer, right? Why am I worried? I'm giving you the sale. I took a sales example because that's a vital for an organization, right? I'm doing the sale. I'm delivering the goods. Why am I being penalized? Then I'll tell, no, I need a global data, use CRM. He simply says, what information my neighbor has, CRM doesn't have. For me, it takes about 35 to 40 minutes, maybe a day to configure one deal or build a deal in CRM that I can do here in 10 minutes or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I'll do it here. Now, your digital asset, which is very good, one of the best brands, had to catch up to this guy's pace. Because please understand, that's what I've been telling. That relates back to that Zomato example or whatever, that gig economy, to be precise, tool. A gig economy can sell a car on a mobile app. He can book an app, somebody will come and see your car, sell you a second-hand car, or they'll come and rate your car and buy and give a new car. And it can happen in an app. You know that. It's happened in a car. Trust me, which is a luxury item. Because I started my career 25 years back in a car company. I still remember, buying a car. Once I was felicitated by a customer because I sold him a Maruti 800. He got him home. I'm not joking. He made me sit in his home. He gave me a box of sweet, put garland, and everybody around him actually came and thanked me for selling a car. I was not even manufacturing. I sold him one. He said, it's my dream and ambition to buy a car. You are the guy who facilitated him buy it.
Wow. He's grateful.
Absolutely. In a gig economy, that is not there anymore, right? So coming back to the point, he's experiencing that kind of a speed, lightning, whatever you want to call that is there. And he's coming to workplace where his CRM says, spend 45 minutes to build a deal. He's lost. He says, I would not be doing this.
And another 30 approvals before.
30 approvals. That's secondary. Forget, we'll not even go to the approval process, which is a lengthy one anyway. And the workflow kicks in. The workflow takes its own path. Because you know what? Everybody who designed the workflow are what? The millennial. Or with like us, whatever I know what you call the others.
I call them the engineers.
The engineers.
They love it when it is complicated.
Engineer, yeah.
CRM should look like a CRM.
Absolutely. Right? So those guys said, engineers want that step. Everybody wants to have a peek into that deal and say, would I like the deal to go through? Somebody has a price point problem. Somebody has a deal structure problem. Somebody has, so all these 30 has to look into it. It takes me the 40th hour or the 40th day, I get a proposal. I go to the customer and says, oh, you still here? I already bought and I'm using the product. You give me a proposal now.
So you are saying, and that's where, I mean, when I asked you that question about what Winverve truly does for its customers, yeah, I mean, what caught my attention was large companies, big ships take time to turn, right? You help them, respond to the request for proposals, which would take 40, 50 days to respond. Now you're able to do it in under 10 days or
Yes,
lesser.
and much lesser also.
Right.
Only thing I did was not rocket science. I'm going to give this, secret sauce out, as they would say, because I wouldn't believe that, it's a secret sauce at all, but people consider that to be.
Right.
Is what we did was we improved the tool's capabilities, knowledge. That's all we did. It could now adapt to whatever people asked. It could get an information. For example, simple things. Yeah, we bettered a UI. What needed 10 pages happened in one page with 5 drop downs. Right? As simple as that. See, these things doesn't need too much of this, but what it requires for you is to understand your audience. And I'll come back to why I'm referring this and why I'm still in training. Though you may call me a digital IT company and all of those people trying to call me, I keep telling them, no, we are not enablers. We are just enabling your digital asset to work better. My way of training is changed. My way of training is not more going in a classroom or building mixed reality or any kind of content. My way of training is to make their everyday life much easier. So now as I told, I don't turn around and use a tool to use that particular, what you say as information. What is happening globally? You're sitting in here, you're getting so much vast knowledge about your market space. Okay, there is this company which I didn't even heard, I'm buying a 10 lakh rupee product of mine. There's this company which started out like the travel company I just said without naming them now. I don't want to promote anybody. You don't get paid for it. That travel company is actually training hundreds of its people, which just started 3 months back. I didn't know I can make 10 lakh rupees from them because this digital asset is giving me this kind of, and now analytics, all of those come with the digital asset. The asset is giving me so much information that I am now thinking, okay, 6 months down the line, what should be my projection leak like? Where should I be heading? Organization is learning knowledge. Today, you are a consumer. That happened because your end user, or I wouldn't want to call it as an employee, or end field force, actually started giving you information back to you, telling, hey, take the information, take my information. Because that guy felt as easy as booking a food for me.
No.
CRM is that simple.
But he comes to the office or opens a laptop and the CRM is like...
Today, yes, it's a cluttered stuff, yeah. Who's going to go through? Login takes you 5 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, because you need a password which has got 8 digits, which has got special number, key, and then whatever that is. And then it'll refuse you. And then it'll say 2-step authentication, 3-step authentication. Then it'll verify you. Some has scan, what? And man, security is good. I'm not going to deny security. Have a single sign-on, boy. Simple thing. Azure, all your technology is today good, but how do you adapt it? What is single sign-on for you? That matters, right?
Correct.
So what I'm saying today is digital adoption is a grind, for at least for Winverve. There are 100 other ways to do it. I'm talking about Winverve. Our way of digital adoption for customers has made sure the customers feel, okay, listen, here's an organization which is not talking to selling me something or customizing the tool to my need. They are just telling one thing. They are promising you more people adopt it, more people use it, so your results get better.
Right.
That is where this is important. One key element, spoke about this in a $100 model that we spoke about. I say about 80% is adoption and the tool itself. What is the rest 20%? Of the $100 you're spending, the $20 that you will spend, that is where is the key figure. This $20, I'm telling 20, it can become 30 depending on how good you are, is where you train people to use it. See, I've got the amazing information. So today, a large company, for example, gig economy companies, we know this open market. They say they spend 60% of their money in what?
On their employees, the manpower.
60% of the money is spent on marketing, sir.
Oh.
Tools. Why do you think a Swiggy, even if you go to anything, is marketing saying use Swiggy or anything, right?
Yeah, those nudges that they keep.
Yes, they want. Why do you want to be recall value? It's a simple model, right? Advertising is a simple model of recall value. Why are they doing that recall value? Same 20% of training budget that you spend for your people is that recall value. Your training now has become a recall value model. Have you used your CRM types?
You're nudging people to.
Absolutely. So what you're doing back at Mixed Reality is an exciting thing for me, especially. And I'm happy to be in the podcast because your theme is very nice of transformation. I'm actually looking at how new age will look like. Not even couple of months, a couple of years is a big deal, but in much lesser than that, people want to experience what they're getting into a lot more reality.
Right.
It's no more going to a bank and knowing how to function a bank. That's not the reality. Reality is, hey, you know what? Why should I update a CRM? How will it come back to me as a fodder? Think about it. Now, for example, if my 10 customers are asking, I only have 8 solutions to provide. 2 of them I lose because I don't have a solution. If I start feeding that in CRM, somebody out there will know, okay, these 2 has become 50% of my market share.
Which somebody else is taking if you're not picking it up.
So the guy out there says, you know what, I'll add these 2 into my repertoire. Now suddenly as a field sales guy, your armor has got 2 more arrows in your quill. You can just use it because you know why? You put that information out there. My question is, does your end user or end field guy know this is going to happen? How does he know that if me putting CRM data, for him it's a job, yeah.
Simple. Yeah.
But if he gets to know that me adding the data into CRM, me getting this, there's a workflow which is happening, goes up there and people get to know this is what it is. Show them can I show this in a reel?
Why you can't? I mean, you can, but then it won't make that impact.
Right. But I need to show this on a larger platform, and then this doesn't have to be in a video. It has to be a mixed reality where I can actually experience being a leader there. I can tell you, okay, also I can answer this question, why my 2 requirements always gets rejected? Because your 2 requirement doesn't have the mass for my company to scale up.
Right.
It'll reach someday, may not be now. So don't worry about your two resources going. I'm only talking from a sales angle. It could be for anybody else. You're losing the 2 opportunities does not mean you lost anything, right?
Yeah.
That's the point. Point about learning in today's world from 2007, your question simply started saying, how is it different then to now? Or how is it different then? Then that was all about selling content. Today also it's all about content. But what has changed?
It's localized content.
Audience has transformed, not changed. The content has not changed. It's still the same. H2O is water.
Yeah.
that was here. But the way H2O is consumed by people. They would want to see what is 2 hydrogen. You can't say it's a gas, man. 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen. No. I want to see. Mix 2 hydrogen. Make oxygen. Remember our lab session we used to go in school? It used to be more like a fancy session. You go, put something, sulfuric acid. Today, I don't think people are very awed with it, right?
No, they've seen it. Their exposure was
lab
larger.
session, I'm sure, it has to be different. Yeah. If you don't catch up, you'll probably go down.
Yeah.
So, to summarize this whole question of yours and my response to that and coming to all of those, be it Winverve, be it mixed reality, the 20% of the need is addressed less than 2% today.
So, Winverve, you mentioned about this one consulting job that you're doing where
proposal times.
The proposals, responding to the market.
Okay. It's more like a business case, but I would rather tell it as a learning business case. That's a good, very, very good example you picked up when we were talking about it. And that's been my in supply chain foray.
Yes.
The supply chain management foray has been because of that. What has actually happened in the supply chain world that I actually entered? See, one of the things we consciously moved out, okay, before that, let me go one step back and say why this whole thing, we're talking about ITITS and why we're talking about manufacturing. That's one big change that I want everybody out there, at least your audience, to understand this a little better. At least for all of us to understand, you and I also. Is the part that the differentiator was earlier industries used to different apart. For example, why ITITS became the flag bearer for training.
Yeah, and majority of the industry, the corporate trainers and training companies largely have IT.
Today also, unfortunately, I would say call it unfortunate. For me, it took about, we are in 2024, about 6 years back, I realized how bad we were in that. Today the potential is there are no people. That's where one area we lack. So that is blurred completely today. Okay, because when we said ITITS, and I started this conversation saying, a lot of your people who came in were alien to what they were doing at work, either selling or being part of work, like the KYC. I took the example about telecom switching and things. Today, that is pretty much...
We know it.
It's phased out simply because of technology. See, technology has now made it open. What's happening yesterday or what's happening today in India is happening tomorrow in Western world. Like UPI is a classic example.
Correct.
Their UPI is happened about for us a year back. Maybe others are catching up to us. No, we figured out, hey, you know what? We are not bad at technology. We can get a little better.
Correct.
Whatever reason, progression wise and internet adoption and all of those. We are still YouTube, Instagrams. We are the biggest, they say.
Correct.
At least the user base and things.
We cannot be ignored.
We cannot be ignored. And one. Secondly, we also have to be cognizant about this whole thing that the blur has happened in the industry. Same thing happened with the other part of the world, which is the brick and mortar businesses, which is your typical selling your cars and manufacturing and all of those, all the brick and mortar, pharmacy, pharmaceuticals and all of those things also caught up. So earlier it was clear distinction, IT, non-IT.
Right.
The world looked different. Today, tell me something, what is non-IT?
Every company is an IT company.
It had to be, no?
Yeah.
Simply because, so let's go back to one of the favorite questions I ask all the people who meet me, and I'm trying to ask you, what is the core of this whole thing here? What is one thing which has transformed this world today? One thing, if it's only one thing, that wheel is the biggest invention we say, right? This is related to wheel. What is one thing which has made IT or anything so much closer and world closer?
I think, in my opinion, I'm going to give it a shot. I think it is the digital revolution that happened and mounted on top of 4G and 5G. That is now, today we take 5G for granted.
I get you all that. I'm asking at the base of it, what is that 4G, 5G, 3G, all of those technology doing at the end of the day? It's only doing one thing, which is, just to let you, don't drag this podcast long, I say. Get you one thing out, is information. That's it. Think about it. Anything, think about it. Earlier, a check transaction used to take, outstation check used to take 10 days. Why?
3 or 4, yeah.
Whatever, 10 days, 5 days, whatever. Some days.
Correct.
It can happen today in seconds. What is that differentiated check? I'm giving a very vague example of a checkbook. Earlier, somebody had to physically go to Delhi. I used to subscribe to this magazine, India Today, for example. I used to give a outstation check to India Today annual man. It used to go to whatever the process, go to local bank, local RBI, go to Delhi, come back again and figure out. So one-way communication saying, is that India Today existing there? The other information is to check, India Today is to check with this account, with Sunil's account, has money in it for me to debit in it. That used to take the 3-4 days, whatever process they had. Maybe it would have taken 10 days. At least when we came in, it took 3 days.
3
Today
to 5
you think
days.
about it.
Now you do RTGS.
All that the RTGS does is what? It passes on information saying, Sunil has the money, you have it, take it. It is information. That's it. Guys, let's get to the very core of it. CRM, I told you all this story. What is it? Information. That he is buying this. All this obliteration happened because somebody... Why is telephone a revolution here? When my father used to say, somebody had to, for example, old in Indian context at least, if somebody had to expire and the information had to pass on to somebody, only information is to pass on that this person has passed away.
Right.
Nobody gets to go to funeral because the information itself is a week or 10 days old. It had to come word of mouth, right?
Yeah, no, also the reason why when you got a telegram,
it used to
which
be
is
only
the
that.
fastest info, the guy who appears with the telegram,
It has to be extreme, either happy or extreme sad, right? It used to be in between. Nobody used to, how are you?
Yeah, how are you using a telegram never happened.
Correct. We graduated next. What was the next information which came in telegram?
I think it is pager.
No. In telegram itself, we graduated. For example, my grandfather was a postmaster. My mother is grown up with a postmaster all her life. So she used to tell this to me. The postal, have you ever done a money order or a post telegraph? It used to have 3-4 coded messages. For example, first used to explain drop dash and things. Earlier it came that you say 1, 2, 3. 1 means happy, somebody is expired. 2 means somebody is born. 3 means somebody is coming to town. That's all. 3 information. So you should go to telegram office and say, you want 1, 2 or 3. He'll put on code. He'll tell, I need 1, I need 2, I need 3. So he knows what he's going to. Only thing, the name will change. Everything else is the same. That ended up being 10. It also included happy birthday. Right? It also included congratulations on your wedding. Happy anniversary. Those things also started becoming part of telegram. So that itself was a graduation. 3 became 10. Understand the basic essence of it. All that you're doing is
passing info.
That's it. Understanding the basics of it. Go to pager, what you used to do?
The same thing. Call back.
Call me, call back, do what? Information.
That's it.
You never used to write things.
No
right?
SMSs, no good morning messages.
Absolutely, right? It used to be information. So what I'm trying to get at the end of the day is this IT thing or whatever you call it. So that is obliterated. So you are in manufacturing and traditional industry. Information is what is pushing everybody. That's when we understood, you know what? And there were tools. Everybody started concentrating on putting infrastructure in place. Huge amount, like your metro pillars and metros. Everywhere there is. Okay, everybody. And people had choices. You could buy anything for 100 rupees, you can buy for 10 rupees. Information dissemination happens at every startup builds a tool, puts things in place. And as somebody who's a decision-making process in an organization, you buy those tools. You're compelled to, right? Because you need to do something. Now the challenge starts with what? What to buy. So we had people like us made money. We consulted. We said, no, buy A, buy B, buy C. We were doing good job. We were telling buy. And that also got simplified. How? Because consolidation happened. Only one or two players came into being. Right? Now the next wave started now. And thanks to COVID, and I shouldn't say COVID is not a thankful thing, sorry to say that word.
No, we get
but
you.
from our way of saying it, what happened was this information had to go to everybody now. That information became more important than earlier.
Right.
Because people never used to work remotely, knew that they can work remotely. Suddenly discovery happened. Oh, I can also do work from home or work anywhere or mobile. I don't have to have one office where everybody used to travel and come. They can work remotely. Not just IT. I'm forget about IT and digital jobs. I'm talking about non-digital jobs. If you take a brick and mortar company, even 60% of brick and mortar company happens in logistics, offices, where you need to buy things. 40% is where you manufacture, somebody gets the good to you. Right? Physical items. 60 to 70% still information for passing. They didn't figure it out. And so COVID made them clear that it can be done. So innovation started, anything started. So what happened? More tools got flooded into the market. More technology got fed in. You're feeding technology without keeping pace with, is the technology being used? So, see, please understand, technology can transform in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. Innovation can be good and you can, see, for example, a software developer, he develops one application, he can make 1,000 of it. All he has to do is licensing, right? The whole licensing model came into play, you can make 1,000. But is your people, now became their challenge. Are people keeping pace with that 1,000 changes? Now you understand. That is where learning comes into being.
So here's something that I'd like to summarize for the audience today. You may be in IT, ITES or banking, insurance, financial services. There is this huge opportunity which is there in manufacturing, which is not being touched by a lot of people. Can I? Yeah.
So let me summarize this easier. Largely manufacturing is in these two areas, right? Which is basically what we call as order to cash and procure to pay.
Order to cash and procure to pay.
Simple. Some of your audience knows SEM, much bigger than I do, but it's broadly classified. I'm not and let me put a disclaimer, I'm not a supply chain expert. My supply chain knowledge is 18 months old. So I'm not going to claim myself being an artist out there, but I've understood broadly these two. For people who are not in SEM, understand this very clearly, there's two things. Now, order to cash, as the word says, is getting the order in, making it cashing the order. That means fulfilling a requirement. Whatever it takes into whatever you bought it, you fulfill the requirement. Procure to pay on the other end is procuring something, you paying for that particular thing. So, for example, an order to cash guy has bought something, you need to, it's all about accounts receivables. In a simple language, it's all accounts payables. But are they important? Absolutely. If you don't buy something, how will you even fulfill the order?
Correct.
Right? Both a very critical layer on itself. Now, also, both look silo have to talk constantly to each other. For example, if I am selling training programs, I need to know there's inventory enough. That means I have enough people enough trainers with me to train that particular part, right?
Correct.
Or if I'm selling mixed reality, I need to know that I've bought in a mixed reality. Your platform is bought. Mixed reality platform is bought, which can do 10 programs in 10 days. That's what I'm selling, no?
Correct.
I'll sell you content. 10 days I will deliver. That's my commitment. But the procurement has to buy your tool, buy the number of licenses.
Correct.
To make 10. So there's a cost involved. That cost has to go to this guy. So they both talk each other constantly. There's a connection between one part to the other part constantly. This is where digital comes in. Information, right? Digital comes in. It has to talk to each other. What if my digital talking to each other is not in a seamless fashion? He's asking some question. The other guy is saying, no, I only have this vendor. Simple. I don't know what mixed reality in this world is. I've never even approached them. No, we don't have the capability to develop mixed reality. The sales is saying, because my customers are asking me, give me. So the procurement now suddenly has responsibility of finding you. It's not just you finding them. They need to find you, no?
Right.
So to summarize what we are trying to say is these two is a linkage. That is supply chain for you in a reality world, transportation, whatever. And each one of them has thousands of connect points here. Now, tools are available, not used.
And training on those tools is something that we're just not getting into.
We not even scratched the surface. Yeah, we are probably looking at the paint and still wondering the paint is so thick, how do I scratch it? That's the world. And that's where I would encourage a lot of these new people to start looking at how you can be enablers in making the adoption, making usage, and understanding. Please, you are knowledge guys already. You know, see, one of the good things about content developers or content guys or training companies, they can create content out of nothing. Right?
Correct.
Look at this area. My suggestion and my two words is very simple. Look at that area very clearly of talking about how this content can be used better.
Yeah.
How can you start creating content where end users, the guy who's a gig economy users, your Swiggy's and Zomato users, actually find your content more relevant and say, I can use this. I can go back to my workplace and use it. Please understand, your sphere of influence is not just, earlier sphere of influence was limited to equipping people.
Correct.
Now your sphere of influence is actually enabling them. So you're also telling the organization, you're telling the L&D heads, hey, I can teach you. Are you ready to take this knowledge? Are your organization ready to take it? That's when L&Ds, and for L&D professionals who are actually working in L&D today, it's an amazing opportunity for you to go contribute yourself, being from a cost to a profit center model. You're not looking at 12-month ROIs anymore, right? You're looking at what? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 10 days week ROI? How do I make a 10-week ROI? This is the way. Where you start contributing back to the organization's decision-making layer, telling them very clearly, you know what? My learning can make your life easier. Your adoption of tools, absolutely. Adoption of technology, adoption of IT, adoption of everything, just in some of those, much better.
And at that layer of, while you're using the tools, how do you keep the humane element alive?
That is what your content is, right? Come on. End of the day, I'm telling you, you're addressing users, right? See, expectation setting happens there. I can't do a CRM in 3-step like ordering food. But yes, you know what? Ordering food satisfies you. Using CRM satisfies your work pleasure. That means you can be accountable. See, I'm not talking about, let's not literally say 3-step mein ho jayega. I would say that's absurd. What I would say is that satisfaction at the end of the day of doing 2 steps and getting a sushi home. They also want to work, right? Everybody realizes it. Earlier it used to be a myth. Today they realize performance pays.
Correct. Yes,
right?
It does.
It's a lot more democratized. Let's say good things about it. Democratized and then a performance pays. How do I be a contributor? If I learn more, I can contribute more, it'll come back to me.
Yeah.
The circle of life, as they would say, is much shorter now. It's not that big. It can be days and hours, but the circle of life is completed. That is where I think we, as being professionals in the learning industry and being there, should start telling people, see, it's not about, this is my way of telling social service here, not about contributing anything. Create more content creators who empathize with this, who can understand this.
Go to a company, look at their systems, build content for them.
Absolutely. And this is not technical. Trust me, this is not BFSI content or any other content. It is content which the user, see, understand the same thing today. People are cross-migrating, pollinating, everything is happening today.
Yeah.
So get there, and there are endless possibilities. We can have 10 podcasts talking about possibilities, but the possibilities are there. Keeping in time, keeping what we are discussing today, content is still the king. I wouldn't go anywhere around. I'm still call myself a training company or still myself this one. I'm struggling to find myself, what should I call Winverve? Because we're still doing training programs. Adoption is increasing. I'm still helping organization make profitability out of all of these things. What do you call yourself? So don't slot yourself anymore. An L&D cannot be an L&D anymore. Learning is everywhere, right? So try how you can adopt.
Awesome.
How can you use it? That's my 2 words.
I must say, we've got quite a lot from you. And I think when we started the podcast, I never thought that this conclusion that you've arrived at, right, could be probably inspiring a lot of people to get out of, the area that they are familiar with.
Absolutely.
Right? And see, there is an opportunity here. And I believe that if I'm seeing the government put a lot of money into manufacturing sector in India. So there is a move out of China. China plus one model is happening. So if you're just being a one industry pony, a lot of people are, very clear. I will only do banking. I'll only do
I
financial
agree with you.
services. Those are people who are missing out on providing their expertise to the to the manufacturing sector.
Absolutely. And also the learning curve in manufacturing sector is lesser now. So they are also facing the same issues, no?
There's a lot more automation, a lot
Yeah.
more
So
systems.
why don't we look at, say, manufacturing is very broad. I would say, look at a brick and mortar. That's my word. The word is brick and mortar, not manufacturing alone. Look at those companies, yeah. Because see, your same people are working there, no?
Yeah, yeah.
Earlier, see, you, for example, simple thing, you go on the road, you see how many people on a workplace are carrying laptops to work.
That's been increasing.
Right?
Yeah.
Almost everybody is carrying. And why? He'll be working in one retail unit, he'll be carrying laptop. I'm saying laptop is not IT. Please forget that. It's information. That's all it is. You are spreading information quicker, better, faster for faster turnaround.
Superb.
You are doing that. Enable that. No content around that. That itself is
That
inventing the wheel, right?
Yeah, it is.
Where
it
you can
is.
use the wheel is left to you. You need it on a conveyor belt. You also need it for a vehicle. You need wheels everywhere, right? You need information everywhere. Information is the new wheel. Start respecting it.
Awesome. Such a pleasure hosting you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks for this.
I look forward to meeting you again in another broadcast. Definitely.
Hopefully, you'll call me after all this we did today.
It depends upon
Depends upon the subscribers.
views, TRP,
TRP, end of the day, information.
information. Again, information.
How fast we could go there. Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks.
Pleasure,
Wonderful.
pleasure.
Wonderful.
Thank you,
Thank
Sunil.
you. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Bye.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, information is the new wheel. Something that quite a lot of things that I gathered from Sunil. I think we're leaving a lot of opportunity behind, right? You may be a specialist in a particular domain. You can start there, but don't stop there, right? If you are building content or you want to join the industry, you could have taken quite a lot of things from what Sunil and I have experienced. We've done those mistakes. Trust me, you will make them too. But I hope you'll make mistakes which are different from us. I hope this podcast was meaningful. We look forward to meeting you again in another one. Fantastic day ahead, evening or night. Bye-bye.